2014 has quickly become the year of the FPS, and there's one game that's getting us more excited than most, and that is Destiny, from obviously one of our favourite studios in the entire world, Bungie, responsible for the Halo series over the last decade. And, Destiny is basically taking that Halo ideal, pumping out into the big solar system, and it looks awesome.
I mean, Bungie could probably be releasing a new brand of cereal and we'd still get pretty excited about it.
Eat the hell out of that cereal.
Absolutely. But thankfully, Destiny is a little bit more interesting than something you pour milk over in a bowl. It's given its massive scope, big multiplayer game, all kind of dynamic and happening in real time, persistent, with vehicles and masses of guns and huge character customization, just really ticking all of the boxes of every single thing you could possibly want from a multiplayer game, and then doubling it into something even bigger.
Totally. Now, you just listed off an impressive amount of buzzwords there, John, so I think we should dig a little bit deeper into Destiny.
Sure,
so,
let's take them one at a time.
So I guess at its very core, Destiny is a fast-paced action FPS, sort of in a similar vein to Halo, except the difference here is it's basically borrowing an MMO template, or what Bungie like to refer to as a shared world shooter, and I'm doing air quotes there because It's a bit dubious. But anyway, so a little bit MMO, except it's stripping back the sort of massively part of it and putting you in a tight fire team of you and two other soldiers. Each has like these sort of archetypal MMO classes, so you've essentially got your assault guy, your sort of recon guy, and your medic, I guess it's fair to say.
Yeah, although it's kind of inspired more by the kind of fantasy MMO kind of genre, so it's like a mage type and a rogue and that kind of thing.
Of course.
But it's certainly, that's an interesting addition. Just on its own, that would have been an interesting thing to add into a multiplayer shooter. A class system, a relatively simple one, just a 3-class system, with a lot of customization within that, where you could really define the way you wanted to play in that role. But keeping it quite team-based, which is obviously something that Halo fans will be pretty familiar with, having played a lot of team deathmatch over the years.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's interesting, really. We've seen nothing of the PvP, which is to say the deathmatch. All we've seen and heard about so far, really, are the two ways, or the two main ways that this game is going to sort of play out. So you've got public events, which basically let you roam around the massive game worlds, which are basically the different planets. So, Earth, Mars, Venus, etc. You can just sort of roam around, go about your sort of usual business, doing the campaign, which is basically you trying to push aliens back off of Earth and trying to gain a foothold back in the galaxy after, it's been taken away from you. And while you're roaming around, you're going to see other players roaming around as well. You're going to get, as soon as a couple of players converge in an area, you're going to get huge sort of robots and groups of enemies sort of drop down, and everyone can sort of jump in together and tackle these big threats in like a really emergent sort of fun fashion. And that's really interesting to me. I'm excited to see how that actually works in practice.
And that's interesting also because it kind of breaks out what we were just talking about, which is the 3-man fire team, the 3 simple classes. It's a massive event. We're talking tens of players, if not possibly more. In some cases, you are yet to see anything more than that, but certainly tens of players, all after the same objective, all working together, not against each other, all combining their different skills. So you could be, a pretty basic soldier. You might be quite explosive based, maybe that might be your choice. But you could be surrounded by other just pure soldiers who have got completely different sets of weapons to you and could be performing very different tasks, even though they're technically the same class. And I think these kind of events are going to be really fun just to sort of see how other people customize their own gameplay style.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen similar systems at play in Defiance, the sort of free-to-play MMO that came out last year based on the Sci-Fi show. And, it worked fine. A lot of the time, it's basically down to how players are willing to interact with it. The problem with Defiance, much like what's happening in Destiny, is everyone gets access to a vehicle that they can just spawn out of nowhere. And more often than not, you just have, 50 dudes driving around in circles while everyone else is trying to fight these huge monsters that tower up to the sky and just lag to hell. And, that's obviously very sort of focused on that game. I expect players to take it a bit more seriously.
Let's just talk about these vehicles for a second, because let's not just brush over the vehicle.
Let's not brush over the vehicles then.
It's a bloody awesome vehicle.
Yeah.
It's essentially the speeders from
Star Wars.
Return of the Jedi.
From Return of the Jedi. I'm pretty
It's
game for that.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And plus, I've never wanted to do this for a long time now, but I really need to buy the special edition
Right.
because you get like a super fast speeder, and
Okay.
I want to race you and win because of that. So,
Yeah, because you can't do it on pure skill, obviously.
well,
That's-
obviously. So I let you in. Anyway, and the other gameplay mode that we've seen, which is the one in this trailer here, are the strike missions, which are basically the Gears of War Horde mode or the ODST firefights.
Sure. Yeah, so it's a survival sort of situation, wave after wave of enemy.
Yeah, basically, you're going through, you're picking up new loot. Obviously, this has a very sort of Borderlands, Diablo-esque loot system where everyone gets their own personal bits of loot from enemies and bosses. It's all personalized to your character build and your skill trees, and obviously they all have different powers, and a lot of the weapons just look really badass. So I'm really looking forward to digging my teeth into that.
Absolutely. I guess the other thing we're taking from this trailer is it's genuinely a gorgeous game. I
It's a
mean,
beautiful game.
it's so nice to see Bungie putting together something this detailed and this just nuanced, with such great lighting and great textures. Not to knock what they were doing on Halo, but they were working with
something
older
else.
hardware, and
Yeah.
it's great to see them kind of just have that leash off and just go off and do something really incredible. I mean, if you go through and look at some of the concept art for Destiny, it's insanely good. But what's even more brilliant is that how much of that's really been translated to the atmosphere of the game itself.
Yeah, I mean, we've still got a lot of questions about Destiny that Bungie aren't really willing to answer yet, and I think the main one is, how is it going to play over a couple of hours? Like the gameplay that we've seen so far, it does look a little bit like Halo with maybe a sort of a bit more of a sci-fi sheen, which could be fine, but Activision's putting so much money and so much, hype and promise into this game that, Bungie really are one of the only studios in the world that have the sort of even slight potential to pull it off. So, beta starting this July, it won't be too long until we get a real good hands-on look at how it's shaping up.
Yeah, and should also say that although it's multiplayer only, it's already been proven to be a massive success with Titanfall's release, well over 1 million sold for 3 million consoles. So,
Yep.
yeah, the groundwork is being laid already for this being a big game this year.